This is Fresh Air. I'm Terry Gross. Super Tuesday is just a few days away. 41% of Republican delegates and 52% of Democratic delegates are at stake. In a tight race, every delegate counts. But each party has different rules for choosing delegates, and those rules vary from state to state. Complicating matters even further this year is the fact that Florida and Michigan scheduled early primaries in violation of both the Democratic and Republican Party rules. The Democratic Party says it won't seat delegates from either state. The Republican Party is more lenient in its punishment. It's seating 50% of the delegates from Michigan and Florida. Meanwhile, John Edwards dropped out of the race yesterday without endorsing any candidate, and Rudy Giuliani ended his campaign with an endorsement of John McCain. We're going to talk about the primary system, how delegates are chosen, and what part they play in choosing their party's nominee. My guest, David Rohde, is a professor of political science at Duke University. He's written extensively about the political process. So now that Edwards has dropped out of the race, what options do his delegates have?
They're essentially free agents. They can support either of the remaining major candidates, or they can wait.
And are they obliged at all to follow his lead?
No, not at all. They become essentially uncommitted delegates now. But Edwards has very few delegates, and we're now down to two candidates. So the possibility that this is going to go all the way to the convention becomes very, very slim. And so it is likely that either in the wake of Super Tuesday or within the next month, we're likely to have an outcome, and therefore Edwards, either his recommendations or his delegates, aren't likely to have a lot of influence.
Now let's look at Giuliani. He's dropped out. He's supporting John McCain. So his delegates aren't obliged to support McCain. How do you think his dropping out affects how the primary will shape up for Republicans?
His departure has a somewhat different dynamic than the Democratic race because we are not yet down to two candidates. One might say we're down to 2.5 now, that with Huckabee being the half candidate. And Giuliani's departure no longer divides the moderate vote in the Republican Party, but Huckabee still being in divides the conservative vote. So Giuliani's departure is a bigger advantage for McCain than Edwards' departure is for either of the Democratic candidates.
No, experts had been saying that it's mathematically impossible that Super Tuesday would be decisive in choosing the Democratic or Republican nominee. Does that change at all with Giuliani and